Hey everybody, Chad Hasty here, host of the Chad Hasty Show, which you can tune in 8:30 to 11 weekday mornings at Central Time on News Talk 790 KFYO and online at KFYO.com. A lot to talk about on the show today, including Councilman Jim Girlt. He'll be on the program to discuss his re-election bid for Lubbock City Council. President Obama traveled to Cuba. He's still there, in fact, and yesterday he held a press conference with Raul Castro, the dictator there in Cuba, and a lot of things were discussed. It was a very interesting and historic press conference between the two men. Raul Castro criticizing the United States of America and its record on human rights, saying that Cuba is not the only country in the world with a blemish on human rights. President Obama said that the U.S. should accept criticism from other countries when it comes their way, and he's not above accepting criticism. The president looked really weak in Cuba, and if you want another good example of why Donald Trump is leading in the polls and why people like Donald Trump, well, look at Cuba and look at the president on Monday in Cuba when he looked weak, when he looked feckless, when he would not stand up to Raul Castro and saying that, listen, I understand that we're not perfect, but we are a hell of a lot better than Cuba. We are a hell of a lot better than what you and your family and your regime has done to Cuba. Raul Castro got away with saying that they do not take political prisoners. They absolutely take political prisoners in Cuba. Cuba is not a beautiful place. It is not a wonderful place to be if you oppose the Castro regime. It's a beautiful island, but it's not a beautiful place politically to be. It's not a beautiful place to be if you are a dissident in Cuba. There's a lot of poverty in Cuba. At one point, Raul Castro said that men and women earn the same in Cuba. You're right. They earn very, very little money. What, like $20 a month? They earn, yeah, it's a communist country. Everyone gets paid the same. There are some very, very uber rich in Cuba, and there are obviously a lot more poor in Cuba. President Obama should have stood up to the Cuban president, should have stood up to Cuba and the dictator there in Cuba, but he didn't want to. Instead, he came across as weak and feckless, and it's something that, well, we've seen all too often under this presidency, and that's why a lot of people are looking at Donald Trump and saying that we need somebody who is strong and in command, because I don't think Donald Trump would just stand there and take that from Raul Castro. Tune in to the Chad Hasty Show weekday mornings 8:30 to 11 on News Talk 790 KFYO, online at KFYO.com. Follow me on Twitter, Chad Hasty Radio. Have a great day. We'll talk to you on the radio.